So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, December 1st. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Wednesday, December 1st here today. Coming off another big night last night in sports. We had the Brooklyn Nets defeating the New York Knicks 112-110. A real close game, a nail-biter. Literally one that came down to the final 5-10 seconds. You could really say one that came down to the final second. I mean, it really did. Fournier popped up the late second logo, pretty much three, which missed, and the Nets got the win 112-110. And man, was that a crazy game. I mean, that was just a wild game and really a great one. I mean, it was an excellent game. It was an awesome game. You know, I've always said this in sports. Like, when you have a... You know, when you're a fan, right, you sometimes like those games that by the third quarter you're sitting back and, you know, you're up by 25 and you're sitting back and you're enjoying it and you're like, oh, we won this game, that's great. Let's see some of the young guys, put some of the bench players in, right, rest Kevin Durant, rest James Harden, any sport or even football. You sometimes like those games where you go into the fourth quarter knowing you're going to win. Or at least go into the fourth quarter with a 2-score lead and feel like you have a really good chance, right? And, you know, sometimes as a fan, if you like it just as a sports fan, right? If I'm watching, I don't know, the Cavaliers versus Lakers or something like that. And you're watching that game. Or I don't know, let's say you're watching Buccaneers Chiefs, the Super Bowl from last year, right? You're watching that game. As a fan, you want it to. You hope it's a close game because it makes you happy. It makes it makes you feel some energy, right? Because sometimes it's not the same watching you're not your favorite team. Sometimes it's not the same energy and level of excitement for the game. But when you watch a game where it's not your favorite teams in it, or your favorite team's in that game, when your favorite team's not in that game, you hope it's close, you hope it comes down to the final shot, and maybe you hope something crazy happens, like a 1 second full court heave and you win. But as a Net fan last night, man, was I nervous. I mean, my heart was beating very hard. It was a very close game, definitely the closest of the season. Because this year the Nets have won by a lot, and the games they've lost, they really haven't been close. So it's been kind of one of those years where the Nets have been dominating opponents, but when they lose, they've been getting beat pretty badly. So last night was really the first game where the Nets really were in a close game. It came down to the wire. And, as a Net fan, it was like somewhat enjoyable and somewhat not. Because, I did not want to lose to the Knicks at all. But at the same time, it's like we got the job done against the Knicks, and we did it in a fashion that will have Knicks fans leaving that game thinking, what if, right? Because when you lose a game by 2-3 points, you always pull in that what if card. What if this happened? What if he made this shot, right? Because realistically, the Knicks were one shot away from that being a 112-112 game. Right, they make one shot anywhere throughout the game. If they made at least one more shot anywhere throughout the rest of that entire game, completely different outcome. So you always play that what if card. But if you win, it's like, great, we won, let's move on, because that was pretty stressful. But the Nets got the win last night. That was great. It was awesome. It was a good win. The energy at Barclays Center was definitely great. It was awesome. It was great to see. Tonight you got the Rangers on, so you got the Rangers on tonight, which should be good. I'm excited. Should be, one of those games where Rangers kind of coming off a little bit of a break. You had the days off built in already, and then you had the Islanders game that got postponed due to COVID. So you got the Rangers tonight. And as for basketball, relatively quiet day in New York in terms of basketball, as last night was the big game, and today's kind of a quiet day when it comes to New York basketball, with the Nets and the Knicks both having days off. So that was a wild one. You can see I got my Nets shirt on today, so and always we're very definitely happy. As a Net fan, you like those matchups, but if they lose, you're going to hear it from everyone. And I have a lot of, friends of mine that I know are big Knicks fans, and I was going to hear it. I knew I was going to hear it. I don't see, the Nets won. I didn't say much. I did not say much at all. I don't usually, if the Nets win and they beat and the Nets beat somebody's team that I know or whatever, I don't usually say much. Unless if they say something to the effect of, oh, this happened because of this, or you guys aren't that good, you got lucky, or something like that. But, very good game last night. It was an excellent game, and the Nets got the job done. So, Nets moved to 15-6 on the season, and day off today, day off tomorrow, and they'll wrap up this homestand with 2 games back-to-back Friday and Saturday against Minnesota and Chicago. All right, let's get to the topics for today's podcast. A big day coming up. The Yankees still sleeping. They did not do anything. Really, no major moves went down yesterday. A whole lot of rumors, a whole lot of discussions, no major moves. So it looks like we're going to be heading into the lockout of the MLB lockout. It looks like we're going to be heading into a lockout tonight, and it looks like the Yankees are going to be silent and not do anything until whenever this lockout ends, which very well this lockout could be months. This lockout could be a year. It could be a long time. We really don't know how long it could be. There's a chance there's no baseball season. So tonight, realistically, really starts the lockout officially. And then once the lockout's in, you really can't do anything. You can't really hire anyone. You can't sign anyone. It's pretty much to the point where the negotiations are at a standstill, and they're trying to discuss the new CBA. Players and the owners don't get along. Who knows how long this could take? It could take a long time. So tonight really starts it all. But before then, we'll see if anything else happens in the MLB. Yankees stay silent again, so no news there. But the topics for today's podcast are some college football today, some hockey, so a little bit of a mix. We're going to start it off with the college football head coaching updates, hirings, all that stuff. It has been a wild couple of days in college football. Really a wild week in college football, I would say, leading up to, the big Michigan-Ohio State game. All the hype last weekend surrounding Coach Ed Orgeron and his final game in Death Valley with the with LSU knocking off Texas A&M, right? That big game involved, there. You had the big game with Oklahoma State. There was a lot of stuff going around about Oklahoma, about, Lincoln Riley saying that he won't go to LSU, and now Lincoln Riley's USA. So much has been going on in the world of college football that we are in a position now where we've got some big news. A couple days ago, Lincoln Riley got hired by USC, and a little bit after that, Brian Kelly hired by LSU. So 2 big-name coaches leaving 2 big-name programs to join another 2 big-name programs. Brian Kelly going from Notre Dame to LSU, and Lincoln Riley going from Oklahoma to USC. I'll get into both of those moves mainly. Some other moves there have been, but those are the 2 big ones that I will get to. Then the Devils extend Jack Hughes. So the Devils have given Jack Hughes the money. Jack Hughes is getting paid very early on in his career, only his 2nd season. But Devils obviously believe he is the guy there obviously they believe he's the guy there with the Devils. They have extended him to a very, very long deal, a very big deal. Jack Hughes is going to be staying in Jersey for a long time as the Devils lock him up. I'll get to him, get to the Devils, get to some hockey. We'll get to Jack Hughes and all that stuff. And then we'll get to the New York sports update as well. Finish off the podcast with that. We got tonight. We got the Rangers are on tonight. Some college basketball's on tonight. Some NBA's on tonight. So a lot on tonight. Despite it, not being a football game or something like that, it's still a lot on tonight. Rangers on, along with the some NBA, and then along with some college basketball as well. So. College. This is the time of year college basketball really gets fun. You had last night. You had the upset, Ohio State upsetting, Duke. So this is the time of year where college basketball really starts to get fun, right? Because you start off with, a couple good games, And you go into that stretch of your schedule where it's a lot of easy ones. You have 5-6 games where it's kind of just tune-up games, and then you really get going. I talked about it yesterday with Kentucky, right? Kentucky's got Southern University Tuesday coming up, right? So after that, Kentucky then has Notre Dame. Then they have Ohio State. Then they have Louisville. Louisville, right? They'll get into Missouri. They'll get into SEC play, which no matter who you're playing is big because it's SEC play. So it's big. So that's really when the season really begins, and that's when you really start to find out what teams are for real. That's the prime of the season right there. That's when you get into December, January, February, and then you get into March and all the March Madness and all that fun stuff. So it's really the 3 months of excitement's really just beginning. So that's great. But yeah, with all that being said, got a lot on tap again for today's podcast. With all that being said, this is the BSN Network podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so college football has been wild the past couple days. Really has been. And this always is the time of year where college football gets crazy anyway, because you have some seasons ending, some teams' seasons ending, and you have coaches getting fired, coaching's going elsewhere. And then you also have, the college football playoff, and you have who's in, who's not, outside looking in, conference championship games. You got Georgia, Alabama this weekend. You got Cincy's conference championship, Oklahoma State, right? You got all that. You got Michigan, Iowa in the Big Ten championship. So conference championships coming up. It's always great. It's always awesome. It's always fun. I'll get to those on Friday when I do my full-on Football Friday podcast. But, it's always a very hot time of year in college football. It always is. College sports in general right now is getting a lot of the light. A lot of the bright light right now is a lot of college sports. You got college football ending, prime of the season, bowl games, New Year's Six bowls, college football playoff, championship, all that stuff. And you got college basketball as well, which we all know, like I kind of just said, really starting to get into that prime of that season where it's that kind of 3-month range. December, January, February. SEC play, conference play, big matchups, all that stuff going on. So this is a big time. But as a college football fan, as a sports fan, I can't tell you the last time there has been a 3-day period where it has been just a crazy hectic with all the seasons being done anyway. Everyone wrapping up, right? All their seasons being done and everyone wrapping up. And then also you got, the seasons being wrapped up and all that. But you got all the bowl games coming up. You got, figuring out who's in which bowl game. You're getting ready for the, kind of figuring out who's going to be in the college football playoff. The conference championship games, which has a big impact on the college football playoff. And then on top of all that, you got coaches leaving, not programs that are struggling. We're talking about Lincoln Riley leaving a massive big-name program in Oklahoma to go ahead and get to another big-name program in USC. And we're also talking about Brian Kelly leaving a big-name program in Notre Dame. Successful season. What are they? 6th-ranked team in the nation, I believe, only behind Oklahoma State. And he's leaving them to go to another big-name program in LSU. So it really is pretty wild that both these coaches are leaving both these big-name programs in the heart of it all. Bowl games coming up. Conference championship games. Right now, Oklahoma is not going to be in the Big 12 championship game. But, a big but there. You obviously, Notre Dame is not going to be in a conference championship game because they're in the independent. So, yeah, Brian Kelly just coached his last game in Notre Dame, and now he's going to LSU to replace Ed Orgeron and that great program over there. And now you have Lincoln Riley as well, leaving a big-name program where he's really taken Oklahoma to great things. Did not win a national championship, gone to some great New Year's Six bowls, Big 12 championships, all that stuff. And he's also leaving to go to USC. And I'm going to start with Lincoln Riley. Then we'll really get to Brian Kelly and LSU and what's going to go on over there. Right? We always talk about the big name programs in college football, right? We talk about, talk about Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State. The big name football schools. Even Notre Dame's on there. Oklahoma's on there. What are some other big name schools? Like big name schools, Miami's a big name school. Although they haven't as much recent success, they're a big name school. LSU, big name school powerhouse, right? And USC's another big name football school. But USC, from what they used to be, have not been the same at all recently. At all. I mean, they've been not good at all. Clay Helton came to USC. And just simply did not do what anybody expected him to do. It was kind of one of those hirings that they had hope, they had belief, and everything that could have went wrong with the Clay Helton era went wrong. And USC, the football program, the past couple years has really taken a big step backwards, and a couple of really big ones backwards. Actually, it's not even just one big step backwards. It's multiple big steps backwards, because you obviously have Clay Helton getting hired, them not having that full-on success, then them having to fire him, and then them also not really having much success after that. And it's like, a lot of the, for being that big name program and being that big time school, they haven't been getting the recruits really that they've wanted, and they haven't been really getting the success and having the guys and players come in there that they've really wanted. And they're kind of in this position now. It's like, USC feels the need now to really do something big. Like, go out and get somebody big. Bring in a big recruit. Do something like that to get this program on track. And they did just that by going out and getting Lincoln Riley. And we all know what Lincoln Riley was able to do with Oklahoma, right? Get them to the Big 12 championship game. He's got them to many New Year's Six bowls. Big-time bowl games, great regular seasons, winning big games. I mean, he was a big part of why Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray are all in the NFL, plus Jalen Hurts, who transferred from, obviously, Alabama on over to Oklahoma. All three of those quarterbacks are now starting on Sundays. As we all know, Mayfield with the Browns, Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, and as we all know, Jets will face Jalen Hurts and the Eagles this weekend. So all three of those quarterbacks are starting on Sunday, and a big reason why they are all on Sundays, and all big reason why they are all in the NFL right now. And I would say having success. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts has been very good. He did not have a good week last week, but I think Jalen Hurts has been very good. I think Kyler Murray's been very good. Mayfield has had moments, inconsistent, injured. He's kind of in a weird situation right now. But either way, Lincoln Riley has handed off some big-time recruits and big-time players into the NFL. And now he's leaving Oklahoma to go to USC. And this is exactly what USC needed. This is a football program that is known for winning and known for being really good and known for being kind of that, California, Los Angeles, big names. It's a big market in Los Angeles, right? You got the Lakers, you got the Dodgers, all that stuff. You got actors and all that stuff. Los Angeles is a, big city. It's a bright lights. We all know how it is. And USC's kind of been dull. It's kind of been not the same. It's kind of been forgotten a little bit. It's like when you think of Los Angeles and you think of sports, it used to be, USC. It used to be all that. It used to be USC and their football program and everything they've done. And now it's kind of strictly just a pro sports team. And even UCLA, I think, has actually made a little bit of a bigger name for themselves. They had some success this year. And USC felt the need to go out and get a big name coach like a Lincoln Riley. And they did just that. Because like I just mentioned previously, this is a football program that was in massive need of a jolt of energy, like a jolt of new life, something new, something, new, something, just a restart. And that's what they're getting in Lincoln Riley. Is a restart, a new energy, a guy that's gonna come in here and be a win-first coach, It's not so much going to be, it's going to take a little bit to get this program back. No, Lincoln Riley will be able to get this program back in 1 or 2 years. And USC today is looking really, really good. And as for Oklahoma, well, it's going to take some time for Oklahoma to get back. Because Oklahoma right now has taken a massive hit. Not only did their coach leave, but their big-time 5-star recruit, quarterback, 2023 has left. He decommitted to Oklahoma. And guess what? Recommitted to USC once Lincoln Riley got hired. One of their big-time playmaker receivers is strongly thinking about entering the transfer portal. There's a good chance he ends up in USC or at USC. And Spencer Rattler, who although has not been what they expected, I was wrong about him. I thought Spencer Rattler was going to be great. I thought he was going to have an excellent season. What I saw in Spencer Rattler was a player that has a lot of natural talent. It's just, can he really put that natural talent in a game, and does he have the enough fundamentals and enough knowledge of it? Like nobody's knocking. Spencer Rattler has a ton of natural talent. He's got the arm strength. He's got the ability to run. He's got the ability to throw on the run. He's got that. He's got those tools. It's just, can he utilize those tools in certain situations and be good in certain situations and really know really what's going on? And he's not, his football IQ, his awareness level is not as great as I think we expected it to be. It's almost like at times the game's too quick for them. But he transferred as well. Another quarterback prospect. So you have your 5-star 2023 recruit, who I believe was the number 2 overall recruit or something like that in the 2023 class, decommits and commits now to USC. Spencer Rattler goes. He's going to enter the transfer portal. He was starting, then he got benched, and he started again. It's kind of one of those 50-50 things. But watch, he'll go to somebody else, play well, and maybe we'll be all playing the what if game. And you have one of your top receivers, really your best playmaker, also enter the transfer portal. And whether or not he goes to USC, that's undetermined. Or he hasn't entered yet, but he's probably going to enter. Whether or not he goes to USC is undetermined. But either way, Oklahoma's taking a big hit by this. They're taking a very, very big hit. Because you're talking about a coach that has done so much to the program, has done so much to that program. I mean, so much. And maybe he was just the 1 or 2 guys away from really taking them to new heights and actually winning that national championship. And now he leaves to go to USC, and Oklahoma now looks real bad. Real bad. And I think what will depend if Oklahoma enters this really big kind of drought will depend on who they hire as coach. If they hire a developmental coach, a coach that's going to take time, then that's what's going to happen. If they hire a coach that's maybe a win now, maybe they prize somebody from a big name school, then Oklahoma might be back in 1 or 2 years. But as of right now, if you're USC today, you got to feel not pretty good. You got to feel great. And if you're Oklahoma, you got to get that little bit of that sick to the stomach feel. As Lincoln Riley just left you, your 5-star recruit just left you. One of your top playmakers on offense is really strongly thinking about entering transfer portal. And it's now like boom, 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 boom. All these pieces that Lincoln Riley brought in are now either thinking about it or have already left. But for USC, it's huge. Alrighty, so Lincoln Riley named USC head coach after 5 seasons as Oklahoma coach. I know this happened a couple days ago, but I'm still going to read the article anyway and all that stuff. So USC has found its next head coach as it looks to reestablish itself among college football's elite programs. The Trojans announced the hiring of Lincoln Riley, who was the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners since the start of the 2017 campaign. Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports reported the news prior to the announcement. Riley discussed the move on his appreciation for his time at the move and his appreciation for the time at Oklahoma. I'm not going to go through that whole statement because I got to get to Brian Kelly as well. The position became open after athletic director Mike Bond announced USC fired Clay Helton on September 13th. His departure came after the Trojans lost 42-28 in their Pac-12 opener to Stanford and didn't look like a conference championship contenders fans were hoping to see in 2021. Helton released a statement saying he was forever indebted to the players he led during his tenure. All that stuff about his, all that stuff with Clay Helton. I'm not going to read his whole statement as well because that was a long time ago, and I also got to get to Brian Kelly. USC made Helton the interim coach in 2015 following the firing of Steve Sarkisian, and he led the team to a 5-4 record that first season. The Trojans made him the full-time head coach during that time, and it appeared to be the correct move when they finished the 2016 campaign with 9 straight wins. Victories over Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington, and USC were included in that stretch, as was a Rose Bowl win over Penn State. He did start off very strong. It looked good. That was when Darnold and all them were there. However, that was the program's last bowl win. It went 5-7 in 2018, 8-5 in 2019, and lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 title game during the shortened 2020 campaign. Helton went 45-24 since 2015 and was unable to return USC to the consistent excellence it once enjoyed. Reports of potential candidates immediately started to come out. Thamma reported James Franklin, Bob Stoops, Chris Peterson, Matt Campbell, Bill O'Brien, Luke Fickell, PJ Fleck, Mario Cristobal, Greg Schiano, and Tony Elliott were potential hires. While ESPN's Adam Schefter reported NFL sources saw Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy as a candidate for the position. There is always going to be pressure at USC as it attempts to rediscover the glory days of the Pete Carroll era. The Trojans were annual national title contenders while under his watch and won double-digit games 7 years in a row from 2002 through 2008. However, they've struggled to compete with the likes of Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and other national powerhouses since. It is up to Riley to change that, and he found plenty of success with the Sooners. Oklahoma went 55-10 during his tenure and reached double-digit wins in every season except for the shortened 2020 campaign. The Big 12 powerhouse went to the college football playoff in 3 of the previous 4 years and was in the position to perhaps battle for a spot this year until Saturday's loss to Oklahoma State. While there was some speculation Riley could go to LSU until he shut that down Saturday, this is still something of a surprise. Oklahoma has been one of the best programs in the entire country of late and is primed to join the SEC in the near future. USC, by contrast, has struggled to rediscover its glory days while competing in the Pac-12, conference that does not get the same level of attention or playoff spots as the SEC. The school dropped to 4-7 after the 35-31 loss to number 12 BYU on Saturday. Still, Riley will look to bring the Trojans back to the top of college football and perhaps do something he was unable to do with the Sooners, win a national title. So we'll see. But all I can tell you is USC is going like this, and Oklahoma's going like this. So this is a big, big change. This isn't something like they hired a coach from a program that was doing good to a program now that you got to try to build. This was a program that was almost at the top of college football in Oklahoma to a program that was just not the same as it once was. And now it's like they're reversing switch spots. Now, very well, USC could be back at the top, and Oklahoma very well could get back down. And it really depends on, what happens with, it really what happened. It all depends on what happens with, Oklahoma and who they decide to hire and what they decide to go. Alrighty, and as for Brian Kelly, he also got hired by LSU, or not also, he did get hired by LSU. LSU, we all know what kind of happened. Some of the surprising news came out about Coach O, not returning for the 2022 season, this being his final year, this being it for him, and, kind of one of those things that, it's just, it was kind of an end of the era. It wasn't really an end of the era. It's an end of the era type of thing. It's kind of it's one of those things that, he had a great run with LSU, winning the national championship, especially with the, Joe Burrow and that team he had in 2019, and now, now being that, not the same, not having the same players, and them struggling. And they did get bowl eligibility. They're 6-6 with the win over Texas A&M. And, it's kind of an end of the era in LSU. It kind of is. This isn't one of these things where it ended on a low note. It didn't end badly. It's just one of those things that, that old saying that, good things can't last forever, right? Nothing lasts forever, right? Sadly. You wish they could, right? You wish winning could last forever. You wish you could win every week. You wish some coaches could last forever, some players could last forever. But the simple answer is nothing lasts forever. So, ultimately, that's kind of what happened in LSU, right? Coach O, he had a great run there, winning that national championship, which is ultimately what he wanted. He wanted that national championship. LSU wanted that national championship. He got it. Joe Burrow got it. They came together and formed arguably one of the best teams we've ever seen. The early 2000s, Miami was really good. You have them, Miami, Alabama's had a couple really good ones. Arguably could go down as some of the best college football teams of all time. And Coach O was a big reason why that happened. Bringing in recruits, getting players to fit into his scheme, really just getting players to buy in. Some of the biggest thing in college football is getting players to buy in. Because you got to realize, they're college athletes, they're college students. They got a lot on their plate. Not only do they have football, but they have school. They very well could before this whole NIL thing out, could have had a job. It's sometimes a hard thing for a college player to really fully be focused and fully be bought in to what the coach is preaching, to what the team is doing. When you have so many other things going around. NFL, you're strictly focused on NFL. You're strictly focused on football. That is your day job. That's your everyday job. College, on the other hand, you have a lot of other things going on, a lot of other things on your plate. And to have players buy in like Coach O had is really something special. And something you don't get very often from coaches. Because one thing you can always say with Coach O, and you can say this about Saban, you can say about a lot of guys, is even when they lost, you can never say, oh, they played terrible, or you can never say, oh, Coach O didn't have them ready. He had the guys ready. It was just a matter of were they good enough, and were they ultimately better than their opponent. And Coach O always had the guys ready. He always had the players ready. He always had the guys ready to roll. And even with limited talent, he still found a way to get them to bowl eligibility at 6-6. And he did lose a lot of pieces from that 2019 team, and they haven't been the same since. And that's why they're now turning around to Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. And now Brian Kelly gets that big chance of really, really doing whatever he can to win a national championship in a conference. Right, because Notre Dame's been in the independent for a long time, which means they don't have a conference, so they don't have a conference championship game. Obviously, last season they joined the ACC just for the year due to COVID, but they got to the college football playoff and all that. But obviously, they didn't win it all or anything like that. And they got to the college football playoff and all that stuff. But one of the big things now with Brian Kelly going to LSU is the fact that now you really get to see how can Brian Kelly succeed in a division? How can he succeed in a conference? Can he win that in conference? Can he win that conference game? Conference championship game? Can he win the SEC championship game? Can he go to LSU and get this team back to where they were? Because this team, despite Coach O doing everything he can, the reason they did not bring back Coach O was because they were not having the success that they expected and the success that they need for the program. So can Brian Kelly bring that winning pedigree back? Can he get this team back to what it was like in 2019? Like I said, 2019 LSU was one of the best college football teams we have ever seen step field. We've ever seen. So it's kind of unfair to maybe say, can he get them exactly back to that point? Because you're talking about top 5, top 10 college football team we have ever seen, top 3, arguably the best. So to say, is he going to get the best college football team ever is a little unfair. That's a little bit too high of an expectation. But can he get back to the college football playoff? Can he get them back to winning, getting a win in the SEC championship game? Can he compete with Alabama? Can he get back to competing with Alabama? That's a big thing too. Is because even though LSU kind of has been struggling a little bit recently, they've still competed with Alabama. They lost this year, but I believe it was only by like a touchdown. So can he still keep this program at a high level, and can he bring it back to where it was? And ultimately, can he beat Alabama as well? Because if you're an LSU coach, you got to figure out a way to beat Alabama. And if you're a Bama coach, you got to figure out a way to beat a lot of teams. You got to figure out a way to beat Georgia, Auburn, all that stuff. If you can't beat any of your big-time rivals, then you shouldn't be coaching Alabama. And Nick Saban found a way to do that. And that is why he's the head coach there at Alabama. He's winning. He's it's just Nick Saban. There's not many reasons why I have to give you why Nick Saban's. It's Nick Saban. But for Brian Kelly, let's see how he fares really in a big conference. And this is no small conference. It's a big-time conference. This is a conference with teams with Texas A&M and teams like Georgia. And if Florida can get back onto the right track. And Alabama. Right? And you also have yourself. You're another big-name team. You have a team like Arkansas that's on the rise. Auburn's going through a little bit of a rebuild, but they're still finding ways to compete. You're in a conference that is very good. And a conference that realistically is only getting better. Because Arkansas is really starting to turn a corner. Georgia's good every year. Bama's good every year. You see teams like Auburn that might be going through a little bit of a rebuild, but they will turn the corner eventually. And you have Bama, LSU too, that might be going through a little bit of a revamp. But can you find a way to get them back to that level soon? Right? And compete at least. And if it's going to take time, at least compete. And we'll find that out. Can Brian Kelly do exactly what Coach O does? He's got big shoes to fill. The one thing that's different with Lincoln Riley is he doesn't have to do much to be better than Clay Helton. Clay Helton was not good at all. Lincoln Riley's going into a position that, hey, Lincoln Riley's terrible. They couldn't stand him. They wanted him out of there. They got him out of there. And now you bring in Lincoln Riley, and it's like, okay, like we got a fresh face in here. We're buying in. We believe in this guy. And obviously Lincoln Riley, we'll see what he can do there in USC. And he's got to bring a USC program that's back. I will tell you this. Right now, right this second, who has the more difficult job? I would probably say it's Brian Kelly. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it's hard. It's going to be hard for Lincoln. I'm not saying it's going to be extremely easy for Lincoln Riley to bring back USC. But LSU's in a better conference. I would say right now, roster-wise, I don't know who has better talent. I mean, we already got some big-name recruits we already know going to USC. I think just the conference is big. SEC's not an easy conference. I mean, it's a conference that's been dominated with Georgia and Bama for a long time now, and LSU obviously got in there a little bit. Another conference, too, that's on the rise as well. So, Brian Kelly, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. I think it's a good move. I like it. I think it's a good move. A guy that he's won a lot at Notre Dame. He has. There's no other way to put it. Brian Kelly has done a lot of winning at Notre Dame. And, he's got to bring that winning pedigree, also back to LSU. So, we'll see how he fares. We'll see if he can do it. I believe he can. We'll see if he could really fill in the shoes of what Coach O did. And you look at what he did with Notre Dame 2010 to 2021. His overall head coaching record is 263-96-2. I mean, you really look at what he's been able to do. It's been definitely been something pretty crazy. His overall record's really good. He hasn't won much in the college football playoff. He's only made 2 appearances, 0-2 in both of them. But this is kind of an opportunity to see how. This is kind of an opportunity to see with Brian Kelly how he really takes on the role of winning a conference. Because one of the big reasons why Brian Kelly and Notre Dame's never really had that whole playoff pedigree recently is because they're not in a conference. They're in independent. So this weekend, while all these teams are playing their conference games and getting big statement wins, Notre Dame's sitting in their dorm rooms watching TV and doing nothing. And I don't mean that in a negative way because they're probably practicing and all that, but you get what I'm saying. So we'll see how he fares with that. But I like both these hirings, I really do. And I like the fact that both these programs realize they need a revamp. They need to get back to what they were. USC realizes that. They go out and get a big-time coach, Lincoln Riley. LSU realizes that. And they also get a big-time coach in Brian Kelly. Alrighty, so I'll read you this quick article here. This was about the official announcement. LSU announces Brian Kelly. So Notre Dame's Brian Kelly hired by LSU. Contract reportedly worth more than $100 million. Brian Kelly has been hired by LSU after a 12-year run at Notre Dame, the school announced. Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports first reported the hire on Monday. The Athletics' Matt Fortuna and Brody Miller reported LSU offered Kelly a 10-year deal that will be worth more than $100 million with incentives, per Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports. Kelly's annual salary will be in the $15 million range. So they're buying in, long deal. Kelly informed Notre Dame players that he would be leaving the school in a message on Monday night via Pete Sampson of The Athletic. Kelly has been viewed as one of the top coaches in college football for a better part of 2 decades. After gradually improving Central Michigan during his first 3 years as head coach, he truly made a name for himself during his time at Cincinnati. Kelly led the Bearcats to double-digit wins in each of his first 3 full seasons as head coach, going 34-6 at the school. He led the school to a 12-0 regular season in 2009 prior to taking a Notre Dame job. During his time in South Bend, Kelly helped Fighting Irish return to the prominence. If this is indeed the end of the tenure here, he leaves as the school's winningest coach ever, having piled up 113 victories during his 12 seasons. Under Kelly, Notre Dame reached a BCS national championship game for the 2012 season and also reached the college football playoff 2018 and 2020 twice. The Fighting Irish are 11-1, are currently 6th in the college football playoff rankings. After 5 consecutive seasons with double-digit wins at Notre Dame, Kelly would be taking over an LSU program that needs rebuilding. LSU's athletic director Scott Woodward announced in October former head coach Ed Orgeron would not return after the 2020 season. His 6th year with the program, the Tigers finished with the regular season with a 6-6 record. The team also struggled to a 5-5 record during the COVID-19 shortened 2020 season. While the past 2 years fell short of expectations, Orgeron did lead the Tigers to a 2019 national championship behind Heisman Trophy winner Joe Burrow. The 15-0 squad had one of the top offenses in history, averaging NCAA best 48.4 points per game that season. The title led to a 6-year, $42 million extension for the coach, although it took just 2 years for him to be replaced. It shows the enormous pressure on the next coach to deliver, considering the success of his predecessors. LSU has won national titles under each of the last 3 coaches, with Orgeron 2019, Les Miles 2007, and Nick Saban 2003 all finding glory. It's clear anything less would be considered a disappointment for the new staff. The Kelly hire could be enough to help the Tigers return to the contention in the SEC West and nationally. If the move becomes official, which it already has, Kelly, who owns a 166-62 career record, will be just the latest big-name coach to take on a new job. On Sunday, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to take over at USC. Obviously, I talked about that earlier. So Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley both finding new homes in prominent and big-time positions. And not only is it interesting to see how LSU and USC do now, but how can Notre Dame and Oklahoma bounce back and rebound from losing 2 very successful and great coaches? So we'll see. It's going to be exciting to see what happens with LSU and USC. Alrighty, coming up next here, we got a extension in the NHL. Some Devils news here. Jack Hughes extended by the Devils, as he who was injured obviously gets extended now, and he is locked up for 8 years. Jack Hughes' Devils reportedly agreed to an 8-year, $64 million contract extension, and they get their second-year young star up-and-coming rising player locked up for the next 8 seasons. We'll get to that. We'll get to some hockey coming up next. Alrighty, so we welcome you back here up at the podcast. So Jack Hughes' Devils reportedly agreed to an 8-year, $64 million contract extension. So yes, you have heard that right. Jack Hughes is extended by the New Jersey Devils. 8-year, $64 million deal. And get another young star, locked up. And I'll tell you what, as a fan, I'm very excited for the future of, sports. A lot of really good young players. You go to the NFL, a lot of really good young talent in the NFL. You go to the NHL, a lot of really good young talent. Believe me, I see it firsthand with with the Rangers, seeing them. Kaapo Kakko, Alexis Lafreniere, Adam Fox, Keandre Miller. So much young talent there. You go to the Devils, Jack Hughes, one of the prominent ones, obviously there. You have some other young talent on that roster too, but Jack Hughes being the prominent one with the Devils, and you even go around the league. I mean, I understand Austin Matthews has been in the league a little bit now, but he's still on the early part of his career. You got Austin Matthews. You got, Nathan McKinnon. He's still kind of in the earlier part as well, Nathan McKinnon. You just go around the league. There's so much young talent. Even in the basketball, football, and baseball, there's so much young talent. There's so many guys. There's so much, excitement around all these players and all these guys, and even coming up, Owen Power going to be a prospect this season. So much talent to be excited about if you are an NHL fan, and especially here if you're a Devils fan, because the Devils a team that definitely are not where they once were during that Martin Brodeur run, where they were making Stanley Cups, they were winning so much, they were one of the winningest hockey teams out there. It's kind of been a rebuild ever since that. They haven't really gotten to that, area yet. They've still been rebuilding. They still are in a rebuild. They still are in kind of that little bit of a rebuild. They're slightly coming out of it. They spent some money this offseason. They went out and got, the big signing of them all. One of the biggest signings in the entire offseason was getting Dougie Hamilton, defenseman from the Hurricanes, who's been very good, has been everything that the Devils wanted and expected. He's been it. And Dougie Hamilton's been great for the Devils this season so far. And he's been able to stay healthy as well, which is always one of your big concerns. When you're a team that goes out there and signs a big name player in any sport, your biggest thing is if you sign to a 7-year deal, or in this case an 8-year extension for Jack Hughes, your biggest concern is, can they stay healthy? Can they go out and stay healthy? Can they stay healthy at a consistent rate? Because if they're on an 8-year deal and for the 8 years you're missing over half the season, well, that's kind of a waste, right? But Dougie Hamilton's been going out there. He's been probably the Devils' best player this season. And close behind him, when out there, when healthy, is Jack Hughes. Because I believe Jack Hughes has only played about 3 games this season. Last night he returned, despite them losing 5-2 against the Sharks. He returned, and, it's good to see him back out there. And, I've always said this in sports, right? Whenever you're trying to build or rebuild or build something, right? Trying to build a championship contender, it's got to start with a foundation. It's got to start with 1 or 2 guys. In baseball, it's got to start with 1 or 2 guys. In football, it's usually got to start with a quarterback. Then you'll build around it eventually, but it's got to start with a quarterback. Baseball, if you can try to build with a pitcher and maybe a hitter, if it's just a hitter, that's okay. But if it, you got to find one guy that you got to be like, we got to figure out, build around him. You're our guy. We got to now just build around you and put pieces around you. Quarterback, same thing. Everyone talks about a franchise quarterback. When you go out and sign it, when you go out and draft a quarterback, that's your guy. Like, that is your guy. Build around him. Receivers, running backs, offensive line, then defense and all that stuff, right? Hockey or basketball, same thing. Basketball, it depends. You got to find a player, right? Maybe you want to build around a guard. All right, find guys that work well with his game. Get big men, get rebounders, get distributors. Maybe if he's a playmaker, get guys that can shoot threes. Get guys that can play off ball. Get guys that can play off the screen, right? Get guys that can drive to the net. Whatever it is. And in hockey, same thing. You got to find a guy to build around, right? Jack Hughes is the Devils guy. Find ways to build around him. Find guys. If he's a playmaker, find good shooters. Find guys that can get to the net. Find guys that can get back on defense. Find guys on a 2-on-1 that you can rely on taking that one-time shot. You can rely on in a 2-on-1 making that extra pass, making that extra feed, and him putting it in the top shelf. And Jack Hughes is the Devils' foundation. He is the Devils' one guy. He is the guy that the Devils are going to be building around for years and years to come. And being a young player, being a rookie in any sport's hard. You have growing pains. You have moments where you look really good, and you look like, wow, Devils are geniuses for drafting this guy, or any organization, not just the Devils, right? The organization at times has moments where they look like geniuses, they look like they got their guy, and there's moments where you have no idea how this guy's even in the league. And that's not just with Jack Hughes, that's any rookie, that is any player in any league, right? There's quarterbacks, I could say as a Jet fan, there's moments where I watch Zach Wilson, I'm like, wow, this is our guy, and there's moments where I wonder even how he's in the league. So there's always those moments. That's all part of growing. That's all part of learning, right? We always say this: the biggest jump is not from high school to maybe the minors in baseball or any of that. It's from college, or it's not high school to college or anything. It's for basketball, hockey, and football. It's college to the pros. For baseball, it's AAA to the pros. It's not college to minors. It's not AA to AAA. It's AAA to MLB. It's a whole different ballgame. And same thing here with the NHL. So Jack Hughes has shown moments so far of being that guy, being really good. But he's also shown learning moments. He's had some learning curves. Maybe moments where he's taken shots that maybe he should have passed. Moments where maybe he should have been more of a playmaker. Pass that puck, right? 2-on-1 opportunity. Take it yourself instead of giving the guy a one-timer. All those different things. But whenever you're a team and you want to lock a guy up or you want a guy to be your foundation, you got to make sure you lock him up. You got to make sure he's your guy. He's not going anywhere. Because the last thing you want is to kind of lose track of it, have your young stud get into free agency, and boom, just like that, he's gone. So the Devils do a great job here by extending their building block for the future. Jack Hughes. He's their building block. He is their guy that they're going to rely on for years and years to come to be that big time, be that big game player, be the guy that ultimately leads you to a whole lot of wins, and you got to hope just takes you to great things. And this season, although he's only played, 3 games because of injuries, obviously a guy that in his 3rd season already has only played 3 games this season due to injuries, showed a lot of improvement last year. Right? His rookie season in 2019-2020, 61 games played, got cut short because of COVID, but 61 games played, 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points. Nothing crazy. Right? Obviously got cut short due to COVID. But that was his season. Last season, he played all 56 games. Again, cut short because of COVID. 56 games played. Less games than he played in 2019 and 2020. And he had more goals, more assists, and overall more points. 11 goals, 20 assists, and 31 points. And this season, in 3 games, he's shown extreme confidence and solid play. In 3 games, he's got 3 points, 2 goals, and an assist. So Hughes has been on this uptick. He's been on this uptick. 2019, 2020 was his rookie season. It got cut short because of COVID. You got to have a balanced kind of view on his stats. He played well, yes, but definitely other things to work on, yes. 2020, another shortened season because of COVID. He's kind of here in his rookie season. Had some rocky moments. Had teaching moments. Went up like this. Then last season, up. And this year it's been tough to judge, tough to evaluate because he's only played 3 games. And we're in the hockey season? We're about 20, 25 games into the season. So it's kind of tough to judge already. Or I'm sorry. We're only about 20 games in the season, not 25. About 20 games into the season. And he's only played 3 games. So, obviously it's been tough to judge, but in those 3 games, he's got 2 goals and an assist. So he's done his job. He's played well in those 3 games. Despite it only being 3 games, he's done well. 2 of those goals coming opening night. So you wonder, okay, 2 of those goals coming opening night, then he had assists against the Kraken. Right, and then last night he played. It was kind of his first game back. So, definitely, I think a good signing for the Devils. Because he's shown progress. He really has. He's shown a lot of progress. In his 3rd year, he has shown excellent progress. First season was good. Not great good. Second season was very good. And this season he's had some injuries. But in the only 3 games he's played, he's done well. So, it's kind of tough to evaluate so early on. But even if this is a little bit maybe of an injury-riddled season, you got to just hope that in the play games that he plays, he learns and gets better. And ultimately, the Devils lock up their building block and their future star and their future player, Jack Hughes. So Jack Hughes, Devils reportedly agreed to an 8-year, $64 million contract extension. The New Jersey Devils and star forward Jack Hughes are reportedly close to finalizing an 8-year, $64 million contract extension per Corey Mazak of The Athletic. Pierre LeBrun of ESPN added more details on the pending extension. So these are the details. Jack Hughes extension breakdown. So 2022-2023, $9 million includes $2 million SB. 2023-2024, $8.5 million. 2024-2025, 25-26 is $8.5 million, $8.5 million. And then 2026-2027, is $8 million. 2027, 2028, $7.5 million. 2028, 2029, $7 million. 2029 to 2030. It's crazy how long these extensions are. $7 million. So 10-team no trade clause kicks in 2026, 2027. So for last 4 years of deal. This is what Jack Hughes said. I love being in New Jersey, and I love playing in New Jersey. I wouldn't want to play anywhere else, and we are really building something special. Hughes, 20, has played in just 3 games for the Devils this season after separating his shoulder in October, registering 2 goals and assists in 2 games. He's returning to the team on Tuesday evening. That was last night. Didn't do much. He only had a shot on goal. He's a very important piece on our team. His puck possession, his playmaking ability, the speed he adds to the team, head coach Lindy Ruff told reporters. We've missed that part. Just great to have him back. He's excited. We're all excited to have him back. Hughes, the top overall pick in the 2019 draft, posted 18 goals and 34 assists in his first 2 seasons across 117 games. Hardly shabby production for a teenager, though not too short. Not the sort of return that some of the other young stars in the NHL offered earlier in their careers. Conor Mcdavid, for instance, notched 46 goals and 102 assists in his first 2 campaigns to 127 games. Granted, McDavid is a unique and special talent, but Jack Eichel, 48 goals, 65 assists in 142 games. Austin Matthews, 74 goals, 58 assists in 144 games. Patrick Laine, 80 goals, 54 assists in 155 games. And Nico Hischier, 37 goals, 62 assists in 151 games, are other recent examples of top 5 picks who hit the ground running in their first 2 seasons. That doesn't mean that Hughes doesn't have another level in him. His potential is obviously immense. But to live up to his current extension, he'll need to take that next step. I mean, he'll need to take that next step. He's definitely showing progress, but can he really take that big step to being a true top 5 player in the league? The Devils are paying a premium on the bet that he'll do so. They clearly believe Hughes is going to be a star. So, Jack Hughes locked up with the Devils for 8 years, and I think it's a he's definitely I think this kid. I think this Jack Eichel. I think he's definitely a solid piece for the Devils, and it makes a lot of sense to extend him. He's a big time piece for your rebuild, and he's a big time piece moving forward. So you gotta lock him up, and you gotta lock him up and have him for years to come and develop him and turn him into the player that you want him to be. So Devils extend Jack Hughes. Alrighty, so as for the sports that are on tonight, I got some stuff on tonight. As for the NBA tonight, we got there are a good amount of games on tonight for the NBA. Pacers, Hawks, Nuggets, Magics, Wizards, Timberwolves, Celtics, Sixers, Heat, Cavs, Bucks, Hornets, Mavericks, Pelicans, Thunder, Rockets, and Kings, Clippers. I'll give wins to the Pacers, Nuggets, Wizards, Celtics, Heat, Bucks, Mavericks, Thunder, and Clippers. And then NHL, there's a couple games on tonight in the NHL. We got 6 on tonight. Rangers play tonight against the Flyers. Some of the other games are Maple Leafs, Avalanche, Canucks, Senators, Kraken, Red Wings, Golden Knights, Ducks, Penguins, Oilers are your games on tonight. I'll give wins to Maple Leafs, Canucks, Kraken, Golden Knights, and Oilers. And the Rangers also play tonight. Rangers come into this game 13-4-3. Flyers come into this game 8-4. The over-under is set at 6. This game goes on today, 7 p.m. Eastern on MSG and NHL Network. 69% of people in the Rangers will win this one. I'll give the Rangers the win. Rangers are off to a great start this season. Second in the Metropolitan Division, 20 games in. 3-game win streak, 29 points, 13-4-3 on the season. So off to the start that I don't think many of us expected, but definitely off to the start that we wanted. And You just got to continue this. And this is a type of game, right? Flyers team that's 7th in the Metropolitan, a team that's on a 6-game losing streak, right? This is one of these games, if you're the Rangers, where you got to watch, right? Because Devils are on a 6-game losing, or Flyers rather. I believe they're on a 6-game losing streak. They're 7th in the Metropolitan. They're really struggling. They're not, they're just not getting, they're not getting anything going. Like they're just one of those teams that whatever they do, no matter how hard they try, it's just not, they're not finding success. Rangers got to watch out because this is going to be a game on the road, on a Wednesday night, coming off a long break. Rangers got to make sure they take care of business because this is a Flyers team that's hungry. It's a team that's going to want wins. 6-game losing streak, that's not going to sit well in the locker room. So this is a team that's going to want wins. And the Rangers got to make sure that they handle business, and I think they will. And as for college basketball, we got a lot of games on tonight. We got Villanova, Penn. I'll give Villanova the win. Seton Hall, Wagner. I'll give Seton Hall the win. Michigan State, Louisville. I'll give Michigan State the win. Memphis, Georgia. I'll give Memphis the win. Iowa State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. I'll give Iowa State the win. Arkansas, Central Arkansas. I'll give Arkansas the win. Florida, Oklahoma. I'll give Florida the win. Auburn, UCF, give Auburn the win. BYU, Utah Valley, give BYU the win. Michigan, North Carolina, I'll give Michigan the win. Wisconsin, Georgia Tech, give Wisconsin the win. UCLA, Colorado, I'll give UCLA the win. And Utah, USC, I will give Utah the win. Or Utah, USC, I'll give USC the win, rather. So we got for the college top 25. And as for fantasy basketball, oh, by the way, football. This is the update on football. So, all my moves went through. So, Alexander Madison went through and Colts defense went through from a non-PPR league. And for my PPR league, Matt Breida went through and Cardinals defense went through. So, I'm still trying to figure out what's going to go on with my quarterback. I have yet to pick up a quarterback. I'm still figuring that out. I still am not sure what to do there. So, I'm still figuring that out. And as for fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 399 to 225. And today I've got going a lot of guys. Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Buddy Hield, John Collins, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Brandon Ingram, Rashawn Holmes, Darius Garland, and Miles Bridges. And on my bench is Cole Anthony. I got to make a tough decision to bench one of my guys. So I'm debating on whether or not to still play Jalen Brunson or not. He's been struggling the past couple games. He had 14, then he had an off day, then he had 2. And then we'll see what he does tonight. I'm still debating. My only thing with Cole Anthony is I'm worried that he might be on a minutes restriction. He's not listed on the injury report, but he missed a whole lot of games. So, is he going to be on a minute restriction? He's missed 6 games. So, he's missed 6 consecutive games. So, it's one of those things that if he's on a minute restriction, you can't start them because you're not going to get as many points. But you got to see how everything else goes. So, we'll have to see. But fantasy basketball continues to be pretty well and pretty good. And, my team, once my team's healthy, I can get points. Last week was closer than it needed to be because my team finally back to healthy other than John Morant. But he's going to be out for a little while. So, but, yeah, that's the update on fantasy basketball. Alrighty, and that will do it for the podcast here today. Like I said, Rangers on tonight. Some college basketball, some NBA, so some good sports on tonight, and then tomorrow night will be a big game tomorrow night. Cowboys, Saints, a big one because if you're the Saints, you got to feel like it's almost like a must-win, and if you're the Cowboys, after starting off the season, 6-1, you find yourself 7-4. So they're losing 3 of your last 4. They need to get back to where what they were doing in the first 7 games of the season, and that was dominating on offense and pretty much playing very good on defense. I mean, all around being a really good team and playing really well. So they got to get back to doing that, and we'll see if they can. But yeah, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.